Welcome to Winden Caves. My name's Bubba.
And I'm Tiny.
And today we're going to be covering the German show from Germany on Netflix, Dark. We're talking Season 3, Episodes 3, Adam and Eva, Episode 4, The Origin. If you haven't seen the first 2 seasons or these first 4 episodes of Season 3, pause the podcast, listen to our other podcasts, and then come back and join us here at Winden Caves Podcast, hashtag Winden Caves Podcast at PPHQ. Tiny, right at the top, we're halfway through the final season. Are you enjoying it? How are you feeling? What do you think?
I am enjoying it. It took me a minute. I don't know if our double L's feel this way.
Loyal listeners.
But it took me a minute to get back in dark mode. I kept asking Bubba throughout the show, now, who is this? Who is this? You know, especially going on to Episode 4, where everybody's in the 50s, it seems like everybody is in kind of the same uniform. So, luckily, it took me a minute to get back, but now I am back and very much enjoying it.
For me, I kept saying how the first episode of Season 3, I found it intellectually fun to see the alt world, but I wasn't emotionally involved. I think suddenly just in Episode 2, seeing our normal characters again, that when we came back to the alt world by Episode 3, I was kind of emotionally invested in the alt-world version of our characters, and I'm really gripped. I think this is a great season. It is definitely providing answers, heartbreaking answers that we'll cover in detail on this podcast. But I think I'm in. I think they are nailing this as best they could when they have twisted such a knot so crazy as they have. Tiny, we have a big contest going for our Season 3 Double L loyal listeners and Double T time travelers.
What is the contest and how would one win?
We are giving away a copy of Ein Reis durch die Zeit.
Easy for you to say.
That probably isn't close to how you actually pronounce it. It's a book entitled A Journey Through Time. It's a tie-in book to the series that has just come out. It claims to be written by H.G. Tannhaus, the character from the show. It's got the cover that we've seen, the book that the clockmaker Tannhaus gets all these times. It's the English language version. It's really fun. We're going to be giving it away to a Double L and Doyle Double T who goes out to social media and helps us promote the podcast. So if you use the hashtag Winden Caves Podcast, all one hashtag, Winden Caves Podcast, you'll be eligible to win. You can do it on Twitter, you can do it on Instagram, you can do it on Facebook, you can do it on YouTube. We'll find you and we'll throw your name in a bowl where we're going to be giving away this tie-in book. Also, we need reviews. We need other people to join us in the cave, to join us and become time travelers. So please, if you haven't already, however you download or listen to the podcast, please give us a written review. It helps other people discover it. We want to grow just like the family trees on Dark. Tiny, I've got some quick hit questions right at the top I want to get to you and see how you feel about them. The makers of this show, the show creator, the showrunners, they named the show Dark. You know what dark isn't? It's not a German word. Dark is an English word. Also, the theme song features English lyrics, not German. How do you feel about that? Do you think they just did it to help open the show up to a wider market than just German-speaking countries? Why would they name it Dark?
Well, are we sure it's called Dark in Germany when you're streaming there?
It's called Dark. It definitely is. So why do you think they did it?
Maybe it's an abbreviation for something. Der
Cave. German listeners, if you know, let us know. I've been researching these showrunners. They've put out such great content. I wanted to know some more about them. And I learned some fun facts. One of the things I learned is that the showrunners considered the revelation that Mikkel is actually Michael Kahnwald. They considered not revealing that until the end of Season 1, the 10th episode of Season 1, and have it be the Season 1 cliffhanger. Instead, they moved it up to halfway through the season. They reveal that he is definitely Mikkel, becomes Michael Kahnwald in the 5th episode. How do you feel about that? Was that the right call?
I think it was the right call. I think we would have been hanging way too long if we waited to hear that. And I think it's a turning point in the show for me where I got very interested. So I think that was a great call.
I do too. Well, here's another thing they considered but didn't do, Tiny. I want to hear your thoughts on this. They considered revealing this mirror world, this alt world, at the halfway point of Season 2, but instead they pushed that to the Season 2 final episode and the final reveal. Was that the right call, you think?
I also think that was like the right call. I would like to be contrarian here to make the conversation more interesting. But again, I think you have to get the cadence of the different time zones before you introduce an alt world with different time zones.
Listeners, we want to know how you feel to all these questions we're throwing out at DoublePHQ, Twitter and Instagram. Go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/DoublePHQ. We want to hear your thoughts. We got a bunch more. Tiny, do you realize that the cave we've been staring at all these 3 seasons is fake? People have been going out on YouTube and showing the shooting locations for Dark, and then they show where the cave is. It's just that little ravine. All that stone, the entrance to the cave we're familiar with, that's a prop. That's fake. Did you know it? There's not a real cave there.
I can tell you I did not know that, but that does not seem like a huge surprise. It seems pretty practical that they're not going to be shooting outside that real cave all the time.
Oh, yeah, totally true. Okay, let's get to some questions more about Season 3 and things. We just saw in Episode 4, Hannah has tried to make it work with another man, in this case, 50s Egon Tiedemann.
Bubba's hero, Egon.
He was terrible. I loved him so much. He was terrible in this episode. But ignoring Egon, did you feel sorry for Hannah? And is Mikkel Michael the only person who truly loved Hannah with all his heart in her life? What do you think?
Will we ever even see any of that? I mean, I don't remember seeing much of...
No, we couldn't. We couldn't see much, but based on what I have seen and in the flashback to them being a married couple in that one episode of Season 2, that's the way I read it. I read it that she keeps going for these men who can't commit their whole hearts to her, or she can't commit her whole heart to them, and getting heartbroken. Do you feel sorry at all now that this has happened in Prime World, Hannah?
I don't know if sorry is the right word because she is so dastardly, but I do relate to her a little bit more in that when she showed some kindness to Katarina's mother, who should theoretically be enemy by proxy related to Katarina, and she seemed to be very kind to her. So I did appreciate that.
Man, I've always kind of had a soft spot for Hannah. I always consider her one of the most fascinating characters. She doesn't really seem to have a big role in these giant stakes of the battle of you have to choose a side. Hannah's off on her own. She's the wild card. And for somebody who, quote unquote, doesn't tie into the bigger mystery, seemingly, I think she's a great part of the show. I love that she's in it. So maybe I don't feel sorry for her either, but I've always had a soft spot for
Hannah and Bubba both like bad types.
Edit. All right. So, admittedly, the reveal at the end of Episode 4 of Season 3 may make this next question completely moot, but I wrote it down, so I'm going to ask it anyway. How do you feel, or how did you feel before you realized of their origin? How did you feel anytime you saw the Cleft-Lip Three in these episodes? Because I was panicking. I have always hated Noah. This is a completely new fear. This is insane.
Absolutely terrified. I mean, poor Doris. Now, do we know if they did away with the man that signed the building permit, or did they let him go?
I hope they let him go. Yeah, they torture Egon's soon-to-be ex-wife, Doris.
Now, thinking this through, did they kill anybody in these episodes, or it was all just their spooky presence?
Well, they opened Episode 3 by killing an old tan house person in the carriage, you assume.
That's right, yes.
But these Cleft-Lip people, they have been scaring the bejesus out of me. But now to know that they are the origin, they are the infinity symbol, and this person, even though we see them at 3 ages, is the child of Prime World, our world, Jonas, and Alt World, Martha. That just blew me away. And now, just like we kind of found a bit of redemption for Noah, are we supposed to look at Cleft-Lip 3 and they are creepy and terrible as hell, but are they just doing everything they can to ensure they exist? And to ensure they exist, all of this has to happen.
Now, Bubba, how did you come to the conclusion that Cleft-Lip 3 was the child of our world Noah, Alt World Martha?
You mean our world Jonas?
That's what I meant.
Well, what happened is Stranger Martha, meaning the post-apocalyptic Alt world, where Alt Martha and Jonas ran into Alt Stranger Martha. She took them to the equivalent of the bunker in this post-apocalyptic Alt world, and she had everybody's name drawn up on the wall. And remember, if they crossed out, that means they're going to die. And when she drew a line between Jonas and Martha, or herself, and then started drawing down, I was like, oh no, oh no, oh no. And sure enough, it's that. Cleft-Lip Three is the love child of Prime World, Our World Jonas, and Alt Martha. So am I supposed to feel sympathy for this guy forcing everything to happen the way it's supposed to happen so he can exist? And they're three, the young version, the middle-aged version, the old version of him, they're all terrible. But theoretically, things have to happen like this. You know what I mean? Or else they don't exist at all. I mean, think of it this way. He's going to have a child with Agnes. But if Agnes somehow ends up with Doris, there's no way he would. You know what I mean? Like, they're forcing this thing to happen.
Right. So
Hold on. That's not true. Because they were with Agnes before Agnes was with Doris, because Cleft-Lip Three are Trante's father. Oh, my Lord.
So it gets me to the question that had me going during these two episodes, which is, what are the sides? We talked about Claudia's side, Team Adam, Team Claudia. And then my thought was, are we thinking the sides are Jonas world and Alt Martha world? And now, are we thinking that the two sides are just the Cleft-Lip Three versus who?
Boy, Tiny, these are great questions. Listeners, please respond to us. Not if you've seen ahead of episode 6, but if you've seen the first 6 of season 3 and not the final 2, please give us your feedback. This is incredible. These thoughts are incredible. Tiny, we have spent so much time looking at the triquetra, the symbol on the door in our world, in the cave, the Sic Mundus Creatus Est door. So, 2 final quick hit questions. Is there a third alt world?
Well, if there's a third world, I have to agree with the listener feedback we had from our last podcast, which is this is turning it too much into nonsense. So I'm going to go no. I think for all of our sanities, we're going to hope for that we've got 2 worlds with how many time periods do we have?
Wait, too many to count.
Too many to count.
I'm going to say there is, and that's paradise, and that's when these 2 worlds finally get everything right. It's this third world, the alt world, that will be paradise. Because I'm praying for a happy ending. The show creators have called it a bittersweet ending. We shall see.
So what do you think? What's your prediction for an ending at this point? I tell you, when we're talking about the end of this, the beginning, and all of these characters, and I think I said this last season, sometimes I get a Lost vibe with this, which is you try to do all this stuff, Lost the TV show from years ago, you try to do all this stuff to change everything, and it's kind of all a moot point.
I think for these 2 worlds, it will be a moot point, but from my imaginary third alt world, it's gonna be created from all this terrible stuff that happens in these other worlds. Maybe in that world, everybody will be covered with that black paint or oil, like Michael Kahnwald was in season 1, and some version of Martha was here in season 3.
So are you on Team Bubba, that everybody is going to morph into this third alt world and live in paradise because he loves these characters? Or are you on Team Tiny? These people are miserable. They get what they deserve. And it's going to end where they started, which is not a great place. The alt paradise.
We love it. Okay, so we're going to cover these 2 episodes, and it is so crazy. The craziest thing that's going to be to talk about is there are technically 4 versions of Martha. So we have Eva, the oldest version of Martha in the alt world. That's easy. We have Stranger Martha, the middle-aged version of Martha in the alt world. That's fine. But we also have 2 other versions of Martha. We have Alt Martha, who doesn't know about time travel, and Alt Martha, who does. So we're going to try to keep it straight as we go through this. But all 4 versions of Martha are going to pop up. So in the alt world of 2019, so we're in 2019 of the alt world, Eva, a.k.a. old Martha, is telling young main protagonist Jonas, we believe in ourselves to be an individual entity, but we're all small fractions of an infinite whole. The light, the woods, You and I, Jonas, are a glitch in the Matrix. So she's pointing them as the problem. And I suppose it's their child that is the origin, the glitch in the Matrix. But do you believe that?
Is it a common expression that when somebody has deja vu, it's a glitch in the Matrix? Or is this them taking from the Keanu Reeves movie, The Matrix, where, I mean, that was the first time I heard if you have deja vu, it's a glitch.
I think they are just creating their own catchphrase. Glitch in the Matrix. They didn't want to pay too many royalties to the deja vu people. There are a couple of great lines in here from Eva. She says, "Did you ever wonder why you never let her go?" Meaning his Martha. Seemingly he never let her go. But did he let her go and then fell in love with alt Martha? Is that what we're supposed to assume?
And then she said, never let her go, right?
Well, she also said, you've got to choose. It's almost like you got to choose which version of me you want to save. Ouch. Good work, Martha. And obviously, Eva wants him to choose alt Martha because that means she lives.
I feel like Jonas is not that picky. He'll take any of them, it seems to me.
Right. Okay, so you trusted Adam, she tells Jonas. Where did it lead you? Where did it lead him? You know, everywhere he goes is miserable, so I don't know if you can blame Adam too much for it. But anyway, Jonas later goes out to talk with alt-world Martha, who doesn't know about time travel, and convince her and show her the path. That leaves Eva to have the Cleft-Lip Three show up at her place, and she tells the Cleft-Lip Three, we must preserve the knot. Martha must perish so all others can live. They give her the things they've been collecting, the keys to the power plant, the play. They give her the stopwatch for Charlotte. So she is collecting things. Once again, is Eva, how about this? We always thought, is Adam good or evil? And we both ended up season 2 on Team Adam. Is Eva good or evil? Should we be on Team Eva too? What do you think?
A mother's love. She loves Cleft-Lip Three, and she's going to, I guess, push through their existence.
One thing that old version of Ulrich says in season 2 is we all get what we deserve. And alt-world Ulrich is pretty friggin' terrible. He goes to see his kids, that's alt Martha, who doesn't know about time travel, and he asks them, you know, hey, when Mads' body appeared, when this body appeared, were you on anything? Did you take anything? Did Killian give you anything? Ulrich's kids hate him in this alt version. And I think they liked him in the original version. Ulrich, really terrible. He's a sad sack because he keeps, in either world, repeating the same mistakes. How do you feel about Ulrich, Ulrich, I guess I'm asking?
Well, I mean, I guess Egon is your Achilles heel, and I like Ulrich. I can't help but like him, meaning that, you know, he's obviously so torn up about Mads and what happened there. And so, I cut him some slack and feel bad for him, even though he still does keep making the same mistakes.
Alt Hannah is kind of in the same boat she's in all worlds. She is bringing brownies to the station to see her man, Alt Ulrich. And there she sees Alt Charlotte. Alt Charlotte, did you do something with your hair?
Yeah.
Let me get a close look at that hair. Let me smell that hair. Alt Hannah is as pissed as regular Hannah.
Right. Can't change her stripes.
So in the Prime world, our world, I like to call it, Alt Hannah had gone to Alexander with the blackmail material and said, I want you to get everything you can and ruin Ulrich. In this world, she's trying to ruin Charlotte. But she is sorry about Regina's death. So I still have a crazy theory that maybe Alt Regina killed herself. How do you feel about Alt Hannah, who seems to be just as bad as regular Hannah, but hasn't had that heartbreak in the 50s yet?
Alt Hannah seems to be the most consistent of all the characters. She does get what she wants. I'm interested to see, and I mentioned this, is there some story to the baby she's carrying in Alt World about who that baby will be? I don't think we can rule anything out.
Well, I keep saying it can't be anybody because it wasn't on Eva's floor, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything. So let's talk about Alt Charlotte for a bit. She goes to the bunker. She sees Helgi's version of a necklace, which isn't the St. Christopher coin. It's like a penny coin. Then she goes to church to see her husband, the pastor, Alt Peter. And who is he with? Finally, a bit of levity and laughs in this. No matter which world it is, Peter has his feelings and urges, and so there he is, dressed in the collar, while spending time in the pews with Alt Benny / Alt Bernadette. I loved that. I thought it was hilarious. Benny exists in both worlds. He's not working or she's not working. I guess I don't know how the gender of this in the trailer in this world. You wouldn't think, but he and Peter do have that connection.
Yeah, they keep that connection. And one thing that Bubba and I were talking about is we've always referred to Noah as a priest, and maybe there is some. I guess Peter is a minister because he's married,
right,
or
right.
We don't know all those rules, but it's just interesting to think about.
Okay, so how do you feel about Alt Helga? In Prime World Helga, he had gone back in time to stop himself and kill himself. In Alt World, Helga comes forward and confesses to killing Alt Mats back in the 80s. Alt Helga hasn't gone back in time, hasn't given himself that injury, which, that thing that puts him in that hospital for a bit. How do you feel about Helga? Helga has been participating in deaths that have killed teens and kids, yet you might feel a bit more sympathy for him than you do for
Yeah,
Hannah.
he seems to want some peace with the situation. It seems to be haunting him no matter where he is, his actions around being part of these murders.
Oh, yeah. So, Alt Martha has gone to the future. The Alt Martha who doesn't know about time travel, long story short, she broke up with Killian. That wasn't meant to be. Jonas takes her to the Alt World post-apocalypse. They come back to 2019 Alt World, and they get busy and theoretically create a baby known as as the Cleft-Lip Three. Here's a question I didn't ask you earlier, Tidy. If technically Jonas doesn't exist in this world, does this mean Alt Martha isn't his aunt, and therefore it's okay?
Yes, that's a great point. Absolutely. I had not thought about that, but yes, I think it is okay.
All righty. Let's finish up the Alt World by just talking about 2052, the Alt World apocalypse. Jonah and Alt Martha, who doesn't know but is learning about time travel, are brought to the future to the apocalypse. And this was just another jaw-dropper for me. They meet the stranger version of Martha. What did you think about that? Do you like Stranger Martha? Should she and Stranger Jonas fall in love?
I like Stranger Jonas better. Maybe it's the casting. I don't know. It took us a minute to figure out it was Stranger Martha.
Yeah, it did.
So, at a point where we were getting really good at deciding who alt and time people were, we didn't necessarily. She seemed, not herself in post-apocalypse time.
Stranger Martha gives Jonas kind of a pitch that a lot of people have been giving him. And let me ask you this. Way back in season 1, he wanted to save Michael, his father. In this world, maybe he can somehow save Michael, or only Michael, because Michael doesn't go back in time and become Michael. But in this alt world, is it possible that Jonas can save Michael, and therefore he would be willing to give up his own world, the world he exists in and was created in, so this world can flourish? Would you do that?
I think for sure he would do that. There's nothing really, even without the apocalypse, there's nothing really for him in his world, and if Martha is not there, it's really moot.
Good point. Final true shocker, we were wondering where old Noah was, and apparently Alt Noah is in cahoots with Stranger Martha. How did you feel about seeing Alt Noah?
I can't help but hate Noah in general. He's the original Cleft-Lip Three. He was. You got that vibe right before in season 1 from him, and somebody else is carrying the torch, but he still has that creepy factor to him. Absolutely.
All right. Anything else you want to say about the alt world? Do you like the alt world as much as the prime our world?
I feel more comfortable in our world watching it now. In alt world, I'm more on the edge of my seat because I guess I'm looking for inconsistencies. Bubba points out when things are pointed backwards. And let me ask you this. You pointed out the letters in the intro of the show being reversed. So,
right, the D and the R in the opening credits title are reversed like they're in the mirror world, the alt world.
So basically, anytime we see this, and probably, I guess, for the rest of the season, but that's the signal that we're going to be in both worlds.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's a great call. Probably.
Right. Like Clone Wars. When they do red, that means that...
Darth Maul. Well, spoiler, Darth Maul's in the episode.
Yes,
for anybody
exactly.
who doesn't watch that Disney Plus now show. Okay, let's come back to the Prime world, to what we call our world. And the first scene chronologically we see, we don't know the time. I would think it's 66 years before 1881, but we aren't really given a time. It's these tan houses. We know Gustav, who is the blind older man that we met in 1881. We see him as a child, and he's with, you would assume, his father, and they're in their carriage. And Gustav, young Gustav, is saying, why do people die? And his father, whoever this older Gustav person's like, well, come on, it's okay. They have some of these things that obviously the Cleft-Lip Three want. They have the cane. We see Ariadne's play was loved by your mother, so we find out from that Gustav's mother, whoever she is, loved this play that Martha's going to do in both worlds later on. We see the watch for Charlotte. The dead are never truly dead. Then we cut forward. Gustav Townhouse is in this carriage when it's attacked by the Cleft-Lip Three, and that was so scary, so creepy. I love that we keep comparing Cleft-Lip Three to Noah, because they say some lines that Noah has said in previous seasons, like, he who has eyes to see, he who has ears to hear. What we know is a drop, what we don't know is an ocean. They are, creepily enough, an even worse version of Noah. Did you feel sad that blind, creepy Gustav got? He was going to send a telegraph to let people know about time travel. Whoops, that's not happening anymore. How do you feel about that?
I mean, I don't think it was a real tearjerker. I mean, the only thing bad there is you don't like somebody who's blind being, not aware, kind of more vulnerable. Is tougher to watch.
Right.
And he was going to tell the world. He was going to send a telegram.
Right. He was going to be the equivalent of Nostradamus, saying, hey, well, maybe not quite Nostradamus, but he was going to say time travel exists. We need to let people know. And there's no way Cleft-Lip Three we're going to let that happen.
Right.
Okay. Stranger Jonas is distrustful of Martha. Bartos is, of course, confronting Stranger Jonas. Why don't you tell us how our Martha died? Why don't you tell us who Adam is? And what's funny is that Stranger Jonas and Bartos recreate the fight they had in season 1.
Martha.
Over Martha, exactly right. Then it was outside the school, in the puddle. Stranger Jonas goes to visit Alt Martha, and I should point out this is the Alt Martha who obviously knows about time travel. And he says something very important to her that we still don't have an answer for. Stranger Jonas says, you said I was in your world with you, but why can't I remember it? Was Stranger Jonas in the alt world, or are there somehow two versions of Jonas? What do you think, Tiny?
Well, that is something I've not considered before.
Well, why wouldn't he remember it if his younger self did it?
I don't know. Why does he look so terrible? Do you think that just the time travel takes a toll on your mental and physical well-being?
Okay, I will spin my theory, which will definitely be wrong. Stranger Jonas is from the third world. That's why he doesn't remember this. His other self did this.
Perfect.
Okay, Alt Martha says she isn't the one who wrote the note to get him to save Bartos, Magnus, and Franziska. So maybe Martha in the third world wrote the note. I'm third world theory going.
Yeah, let us know if you're team third world with Bubba.
All right. So we find out that the Tannhouses wanted to bring somebody back to life through time travel. Alt Martha, who knows about time travel, is trying to stop the apocalypse in her world. She says, I have this one bit of God particle left. I'll give it to you guys so you can do what you're going to do with it. She gives it to Stranger Jonas. They try to do some things while they're working on it. Uh-oh. Later, losers. She goes back, gets her orb. She's got plenty more of the God particle, and she jumps forward to the post-apocalypse of our world, or Prime World.
It's so funny because in our last podcast, I was saying, what's with Jonas? Why is he so mean to Martha? And it looks like she totally tricked him.
Later on, his older self, Adam, says, what did he say?
He was gullible.
Yeah, he's like, I was always so gullible. Oh, boy. Then we spend a lot of time in the 50s, and I've always kind of liked the 50s. But once again, we're really focusing on characters we haven't spent too much time with, and that's young Tronte. All versions of Tronte are getting more play here in Season 3. So young Tronte's walking through the woods, and then once again, before we knew who the Cleft-Lip Three were, they approach him, and this was scary as hell to me. Cleft-Lip, I knew your mother, but that was long ago. You take after her. I don't have a name, but back then I got to choose what to call you. He gives young Tronte the snake eating its own tail bracelet. It belonged to your mother. You should have it now.
Now, Bubba, just to help our listeners, from the floor map, Tronte's mother is...
Agnes, a.k.a. Noah's sister.
Right.
Who finally appeared in these episodes where she hadn't been in any Season 3 episodes up to this. Let's just follow Tronte in his world. We see that the girls, Inez Kahnwald, the nurse who will adopt Mikkel, and Claudia, they're looking at naughty photos, but Jana, a.k.a. the woman who will be Ulrich's mother, and Mads' mother, and Magnus, Martha, and Mikkel's grandmother, I don't want to say a prude, but she doesn't want to look at those photos. But it seems like there's a fight over a boy, and instead of a fight over Ulrich, this is a fight over Tronte. Claudia, in Season 2, had talked Tronte into showing her his penis. In this season, we see that she showed her naughty bits to Tronte.
Now, whose magazines were they?
Oh, that's a great point.
Maybe they were Doris's.
No. They were. That's a great point. But they were actually Inez's father, Daniel Kahnwald, who we know kind of had been cheating on whoever his wife was. And he talked to Egon saying, yeah, get some on the side. So, all right. Continuing on, Tronte has a touching moment with Jana at the lake where they seem to bond and where you could see, oh, these two could grow up and get married together. But, of course, Claudia didn't like that at all. She's like, come with us home. Come with us home. They go home. How do you feel? And somehow Tronte gives the snake eating its own tail bracelet to Jana, the woman who will be his wife in several years, and he'll have kids with. Do you have a side in the who should end up with Tronte, who may not be quite a prize, huh?
Well, Bub, I think it's already written.
It is. Sadly, it is already written. Let's go to my girl, Hannah. So Egon and Hannah are together. He tells her, I love you. In so many versions of the world, we've seen Hannah tell Ulrich she loves him. Here, Egon is telling her, I love you. Notice she didn't respond, just like Ulrich never responded with a I love you too. But Egon also later says Ulrich's classic line, you're beautiful, which certainly is not going to cheer her up at all. Egon gives her the St. Christopher pendant. You look pale. He still thinks Hannah's name in this 50s is Katarina. Oh boy, that's a fun little play. Hannah, as we could all expect, as we stared at the floor last week, we knew she would become pregnant. She goes to tell Egon, and Egon, who I've always been a huge fan of, he says, is it mine? Oh, how terrible.
Burn.
Hannah tells Egon that she won't keep it. She doesn't need anybody. Her whole life she thought she needed a man. She doesn't need any man. Egon, once again, not being the greatest dude, he gives her the name of a place to get an abortion, the Oppendorfs. Hannah goes to see this Oppendorf, and who's there but a young, gosh, how old would you guess, Helena Albers, who's going to be Katarina's mother? How old do you think she was in that scene? It creeped me out that she was there. Oh.
Well, it makes me think maybe that's why she's so bitter and mean to Katarina, as if she's, 15 having an abortion illegally.
Maybe that's why she gave Katarina that black eye when she found out she was having sex with Ulrich in the 80s.
Absolutely.
Oh, my Lord. So this conversation convinces, number one, Helena, oh, Katarina's a lovely name. She'll remember that for when she has a daughter later on. Plus, it convinces Hannah not to have the abortion. Hannah leaves the St. Christopher necklace for her, so now we know how she got it. And Hannah seems to leave the 50s. Where do you think Hannah's going to end up, Tiny?
I don't know where Hannah is going to end up. I mean, maybe she's going to, I guess, go to the 80s?
Oh, maybe? Yeah, go back to her teenage self and see herself. That's not a bad idea. If she goes back to anywhere near her time, that's the apocalypse. You wouldn't want to go back there if you're pregnant.
Yes.
But actually,
she wouldn't want to go back to current. She's got Michael, who's passed away, and Jonas, who is MIA.
True. Okay, well, how about this? Let's cover the other characters we have to look at in the 50s. Egon and his wife, Doris. We knew We knew that she was going to leave him. We knew that he was going to end up a drunk from previous seasons. Now we see how it happens. Egon's wife has fallen for Agnes. Agnes has disappeared, and Doris is going nuts. She's like, listen, these initials, HT, look at this handkerchief. She mentioned her husband, or Trante's father, I should say, was a priest, and look at this, look at this, look at this. Turns out, Egon, he's like, what is any woman? What goes on in the mind of any woman? Oh, terrible Egon. Oh, so terrible. She goes to the church. Noah, the priest there, who goes by Hanno Tauber, probably his real name, but anyway, he is gone. Who's there instead? The Cleft-Lip Three. This was such a creepy scene, the way they surround her. Each lie we tell comes with a cost. You're not interested in the boy, Trante. You're interested in the woman.
You just want to tell the people to run. They don't come quickly. But I understand why they don't. They
Right.
just creep up on you and surround you.
Oh, so terrible. But they get through to her. Doris decides she wants a divorce. Egon, who has lost Hannah, becomes the drunk we knew he was going to be. He's left at home with a young daughter, Claudia, who's probably too smart for him, and this boy who's just been left at his house, Trante. What a weird thing going on with Egon, because we never really saw 80s Trante with Egon. He didn't treat him like a father or anything, so, Tiny, you didn't like the fact that Claudia and Trante, as such little kids, keep showing themselves naughty bits.
Well, I guess she's without supervision now. Her dad is drunk and her mom's run away, so it might explain some things. But I just think they're so young looking, everybody.
Oh, yeah. Final bit of the 50s is the Doppler, who's building this power plant, Burnt, who we saw the Cleft-Lip Three kill, his older self, in an earlier episode. Here in the 50s, he's still trying to get this power plant built, but he's getting some trouble from City Hall. So the Cleft-Lip Three go and find the member of City Hall who is holding
The younger one is the aggressor in this one with the gun.
And long story short, we don't know what happened to that member of City Hall.
But he signed the document.
Right. Possibly R.I.P. City Council member of Winden. The only other bit of our world that we saw was in 2053. Alt Martha, who knows about time travel, has left 1881. She journeys to the apocalypse to visit Adam, and apparently she's been doing Adam's bidding for a while. Why would she be doing Adam's bidding, Tiny?
There is no telling, other than Adam can influence a lot of people, obviously.
So Agnes is with Adam. She got back on Team Adam by killing her brother Noah in Season 2, but now she's in post-apocalyptic our timeline with Adam, and she shows him the newspaper announcement of old White Devil Claudia's death. Adam tells her, you've got to give that to Claudia when she needs to know. He also tells Agnes to live as a gift for those who know how to use it. Agnes, you'll tell Alt-World Martha what the origin really is. And sure enough, he does. He does tell her that this unnamed Cleft-Lip Three is the origin of it all. Oh, Tiny, we also, in this post-apocalyptic version of our world, the Prime World, we see a character we haven't seen yet in Season 3. We called her Scarface. She's the girl who, at the end of Season 1, takes the rifle and butts it into Jonas and says, welcome to the future. She's the one who helps Jonas in the post-apocalyptic world get into the God particle so Jonas can go on his journey. She's there. She's connecting with Agnes, but she really doesn't get to see much. We see Agnes get in a yellow suit and go towards the God particle. Where do you think Agnes is going?
There's no telling where Agnes is going. Now, Bubba, you're much better at theories than I am. Where do you think she's going?
Oh, boy. Is it possible she's going to go back and find Doris and make her happy? Once again, possibly a happy ending? Maybe?
That would be fantastic. That would be a nice twist, something positive to think might happen.
So, Adam has a photo of the Cleft-Lip Three. Alt Martha demands that he keeps up his end of the deal. Show me the origin. He'll do it. He says it was 66 years before I realized. This is Adam, before it all came together. Adam brings Alt Martha and shows her, I assume, to Jonas's room, the equivalent of her room in the alt world. And he says, it's here. She and Jonas's child is the seed. Alt Martha is still pregnant with this Cleft-Lip Three. And the Cleft-Lip Three, baby, is the knot. It's the beginning and the end. Oh, if you're Alt-World Martha and you find out Cleft-Lip Three is the thing, the beginning of this and the end of it, what do you do?
I don't know. I just struggle with understanding what everybody's end goal is. Like, what is Adam trying to do? Obviously, I think Cleft-Lip Three want to exist, so that's pretty easy, but...
Does Adam want to save his son, the Cleft-Lip Three? But once again, everybody is so tied together that any one person not living, they all don't live.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, Jonas sets out to basically save his dad, and now he's trying to stop the apocalypse, and now to stop everything anyway, his son has to die, right?
Yeah, theoretically, but of course his son dying means his son is the father of Tronte. If there's no Tronte, there's no Ulrich. If there's no Ulrich, there's no Martha, Magnus, and Mikkel. If there's no Mikkel, there's no him. If there's no him, there's no Cleft-Lip Three. Also, if there's no time travel, there's no Francisca or Charlotte or Elizabeth. This is possibly...
So how about, I'm not on board with the Alt-World 3 theory, but how about a Alt-World old Clef? Like, will they become Cleft-Lip Quattro?
Sure, okay, yeah, that's good. Oh my God, it's so crazy. Listeners, we are halfway through season 3. I want to know how you're doing. I want to know how we're doing. I still don't know even after recording this podcast. It is crazy. This podcast is going to be a bit shorter than most because we don't have the feedback session we normally have. But once again, we are giving away a copy of A Journey Through Time, the H.G. Tannhaus tie-in novel that Netflix and Dark has released. The English language version of it, it's got the cover you're familiar with. If you give a hashtag on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube, Winden Caves Podcast, your name will be eligible to win. If you do it in all those locations, you'll have that many entries. We need people to help us out. If you give us a written review on iTunes, on Stitcher, on Spotify, on iHeartRadio, on YouTube, however you do it, we'll put you in the drawing as well. Our segment this season is to read a bit of this book. We like to do it because it seems like it was written very quickly, or I should say translated from German to English very quickly, because this thing gets so confusing. So before we read you a bit of the first chapter, the first bit of the book, now because there's time travel involved, we're going to read you a paragraph from near the end of the book. Once again, this will give you an idea of what...
So the beginning is the end, theoretically.
Exactly. So
okay.
Read that one there, Tanya.
Charlotte needed to probe that the clock was in her pocket, although she had placed it there a few seconds ago. He felt a smile on his pottery face that he felt. Knowing that everything that had happened had come to an end now gave him peace of mind, hoping to get rid of all his exhaustion. When he turned around to set off to turn a taxi, a man with a tall cap blocked his way, freeing all his peace.
Does it feel like Charlotte changes gender in that sentence, Tidy? Does the language of German have male and female pronouns that could get screwed up in a translation? What happened there?
I am not sure. It seems like we might be changing time in the same paragraph within this book that you could win by hashtagging Winden Caves Podcast.
Once again, you won't have to buy it. We'll ship it to you. You may not have to read it.
Small $20 handling fee. Just kidding.
Just kidding. We love doing this. Give us your feedback through episode 6, not the final 2. We can't be spoiled. But give us your feedback through the first 6 episodes, and we'll read it on our podcast that's going to be coming out on Monday. For everybody in the future, you'll just say, oh, I'll just download it now. But for everybody in the present timeline on our Earth, the next one covering episodes 5 and 6 will be released on Monday. For everybody here, deep in the Winden Caves, I'm Bubba.
And I'm Tiny.
All right, Tiny. If we go to the alt-world door, we know that when we open it, we'll be reading
Let There Be Light.
It just doesn't have the same ring as Sic Mundus Gratis Est.